Hey everyone, I'm Katie from Addicted to DIY, and today I'm going to be showing you how I set up my Thunder Nova 51. So before I get started with the whole setup, I wanted to let you know you're going to see me referencing a printed manual a few times in the video. Thunder sends you an email with all of the information that you need to know when you order your laser, and in that is a user manual on how to set up your laser. For me, I'm kind of old school where I like to have something in front of me in my hand so that I can flip the pages versus trying to scroll on my phone or on my computer. I tend to miss steps when I do that. So I went ahead and actually downloaded the manual and had it printed at Office Max before my laser arrived. So it was easy for me to be able to flip the pages, take notes in it, and things like that. So I want to say it costs around $45 or so to have the manual printed and bound. And they had it done really quickly. I think I ordered it at night and by the next morning it was done. So definitely a good idea if you're old school like me and you like to have things in front of you.
If you remember from my unloading video, my husband was at work the day the laser was delivered. I was initially going to wait for him to be home so he would be able to unbox it with me, but he said go for it and I wasn't about to waste another second. I used a hammer and a pry bar to open up the crate. It's recommended that you keep the crate pieces intact and don't throw them away until you've set up your laser and know it's in working order. If for some reason it needs to be shipped back, you need to package it back up in the crate. As I took the crate apart, I carefully bent the nails down and set the pieces aside. My dog took it upon herself to use the sides of the crate as a place to lay down. She can never resist laying on a sheet of plywood. I kept one side of the crate in my shop to use as a ramp to roll the laser off. After I unpackaged everything, I got it ready to roll onto the floor. The stabilizing feet are firmly planted to the bottom of the crate on all four corners, so I needed to raise those up to free up the casters. I couldn't get them to turn on their own, so I used a piece of wood as a lever to lift up the corners of the laser a bit and turn the feet until they were high enough for the casters to roll. I found that I still had to raise the feet up a bit more to get it all of the way off of the crate and also give it a good push. Once it was off the crate, I was able to easily maneuver it through my shop to the area I had designated it to go. The laser comes with a toolbox that contains just about everything you'll need to get it up and running, including hex wrenches, which I needed in order to remove the front pass-through door. I did this to be able to reach the back of the laser bed, where the honeycomb tray was secured in place with a zip tie. Originally, I was going to place the laser against this wall with the idea that we would turn it whenever we wanted to use both pass-through doors. This wall also has two outlets that are each on their own designated circuits. We did this before we ever even considered buying a laser, and it just so happened to work out perfectly in our favor. While I was working on getting things set up, I also opened up the back door to access the laser tube. There's some padding that surrounds the laser tube to keep it safe and secure during transport, and that needs to be removed before you start working on anything else. I planned out where I was going to drill the vent hole in the wall and marked out the location, making sure that I wasn't going to be hitting any of the studs in the wall. After a bit of thinking, and then some more overthinking, my husband and I decided to rearrange the placement of the laser which meant my hole also had to move over a couple of feet. So I marked out a new location and drilled a 6-inch hole in the wall. To say it was stressful to be adding a gigantic hole in the wall would be an understatement, and we spent a lot of time overthinking the entire process. Once the drywall was removed, I pushed the insulation aside and started drilling through to the outside. I went just far enough that the pilot bit in the hole saw would poke through to the outside. Then I went to the outside of the shop and finished off the hole through the stucco and foam. I inserted the dryer vent from the outside while my husband guided it through on the inside. The hole wasn't perfectly in line from inside to outside, so we had to shave the drywall a bit to get it to work. Once the vent was in place, I drilled some pilot holes and then drove wood screws into the side of the shop and into the wood sheathing behind the foam. This fully secured the vent in place. Then I sealed it off with an exterior caulk. Once the vent was finished, it was time to get the rest of the machine set up. My husband had to run to the store for a part, so I started setting up the other components. I started with the air assist that comes with the machine. I do plan to upgrade my air assist in the near future, but it's recommended to first start using your machine with the included air assist to make sure that everything is dialed in and working properly before adding any upgrades. I got it all plugged in and then started setting up my chiller. I got all of the hoses plugged in, and then my husband got back from the store. When I ordered my laser, I was reading all of the specs, and they were not updated quite yet with the fact that it now came with an 8-inch inline exhaust. I purchased a reducer to fit my 6-inch vent, but I didn't realize I needed a coupler to help them fit together, which is what my husband had to run to the store for. Once I had everything put together, I secured the ducting with Tech screws, and then sealed the joints with foil tape to prevent any of the exhaust from escaping. To keep everything in line with the exhaust venting, I built a little stand for my inline fan to sit on. Now, for as much as I like to have directions in front of me, I sometimes will also completely ignore those directions. For example, I was scratching my head trying to figure out how exactly I was going to mount this exhaust fan to the stand. Then I grabbed the instructions that came with the fan and realized it comes apart easily to mount it to something. Once I got it mounted to the stand, I was able to fit it to the reducer and sealed it off with foil tape. Then I fit the hose in place on both the fan and the laser. Our thought process with this setup is that we can easily move the laser straight out from its position and access the pass-through doors if needed. This would keep everything in line and maximize on the ventilation. With this current setup, the laser is a little less than 2 feet off of the wall on the side and about 3 feet off of the wall on the back. I went back to the chiller setup and filled it with distilled water. It takes just under 2 gallons to fill the chiller up. You'll start by filling it until it's in the normal range, then turning on the chiller to circulate the water through the tube. Once you've circulated the water through the tube, you'll want to go back and top off your chiller again, only within that normal range. I want to note that you must have your main switch and your laser switch turned on for the chiller to turn on. I actually thought for a moment that I had a defective chiller, but it turns out that I missed that point in the manual. It is mentioned several pages prior to the chiller setup, so it can be easily missed. If there are bubbles in your laser tube when it fills with water, you'll also want to make sure your chiller is on when you're squeezing the water lines. This will help create enough pressure to move the air bubble out of the laser tube. Finally, it was time to connect my laser to Lightburn. I connected my computer with the included USB cord and ended up needing to manually set up the connection. I think my computer was just feeling like being difficult that day. Once everything was connected, I grabbed a piece of plywood to test the laser for the first time. I manually set my focus to 6mm and set it to engrave. It was a great feeling to know that all of the stress and overthinking of the setup process worked and that everything was running well. Now the real fun begins.
So I hope you found this video helpful, whether you are anxiously waiting for your laser or whether your laser is still in the crate and you're nervous about opening it. If you have any questions about the setup, definitely leave me a comment and I will do my best to answer it. And thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more laser videos.